Holographic Decoy in the devices tree. Now before I cast this power, you need to know that it will always spawn on the right side of your character. Now I'm facing the right side now, and here I am casting it. Always spawns on the right. Now that cooldown on it lasts 30 seconds, but the decoy itself will last for 16. Once the cooldown marker reaches 7 or 8 o'clock, that means that decoy is going to disappear because those 16 seconds are up. The decoy taunts up to 3 times, and when you first cast it, a second later it will pop the first taunt. 5 seconds later it will pop the second taunt, and then 5 seconds after that it will pop the third and final taunt. After that, once that decoy disappears, whatever NPCs were attacking it will attack you or the next person that's on the hate table. So you'll have to wait the remaining cooldown time just to cast it again. And I usually only run, or what you can do is run the decoy if you're doing an alert or some type of raid or something and there's no tank. But it's a lot easier to run it in an alert with no tank, depending on the type of raid and the level. The combat rating that you have, you might not want to run with a tank unless of course it goes down. Now the decoy scales with your CR. That means that the amount of health that it has is determined by your combat rating. Now the decoy is not an offensive power by itself. The only way you will deal damage with it is if you pop the decoy and then you hit self-destruct, and with self-destruct it will deal 3 orange ticks of damage, and those orange ticks also scale with your CR, but it's not significant damage, and I wouldn't recommend that for a DPS unless you're just like having a fun build or running some content to where you're just, you know, role playing or whatever. The decoy also mitigates 25% of incoming damage. So if I pop this decoy, the sign that tells you that damage absorption is active are those waves. As long as that's up, that means you're mitigating damage. Let's say there's NPCs attacking this decoy and some of that damage is AoE, or you're over here and some other target is hitting you, 25% of that damage that's hitting you is being transferred to that decoy. And that decoy is taking that damage as well as all the other damage that those NPCs are taking or dealing to it. Now, the practicality of the decoy. One of the things you do not have to worry about is stealing a tank's taunting ability. A tank is at the top of the taunting list. The decoy and other pets that do the taunting, they're right underneath them. So you're not going to steal it away from the tank unless the tank's taunt expired, or for whatever reason a scripted attack in which it ignores the tank. So you don't need to worry about stealing it because that's not how it functions. As long as the tank has his or her taunt active, the decoy will not steal a boss or any ads. Now let's say that this location here, let's say right here is a tank holding a boss. Now if I'm back here and I'm in controller stance and I'm doing weapon regen or throwing debuffs or whatever, let's say there's a location back here and ads in this fight just happen to spawn from back here, or they just came from another corridor or whatever. If you pop the decoy in either stance, because it works the same in both damage or controller, you will buy the tank 10 seconds of reaction time. All you have to do is yell at or tell the tank, you know, you have ads back there, you got 16 seconds, however long you have passed since you cast it. Say, hey, come grab these ads. So of course we would clear the way. He or she comes over, pulls the ads, and then they have them with the boss. So if you're trying to buy, trying to help out the tank, that's definitely one thing that you can do. I tried it in Throne Elite back when it was difficult, and it was definitely helpful, especially in avoiding deaths. So you could do that there. If you're doing something like Trigon in Unholy Matrimony, assuming this video is still up while it's still difficult for some groups. He would be the west wall. The NPCs always come out on the south and the north when Raven converts. So what you could do is, depending on where exactly the tank is, you could always go to one side, and of course depending on where you're standing, you go to a certain spot, you pop the decoy. Let's say Hatred is stunning the tank, or the tank is grabbing the ads from the south first. You bought him reaction time again, because as soon as those ads come out, they'll go to the decoy. Once the decoy pops its taunt, because it's not like it's consistently popping its taunt, it's once every 5 seconds. So it'll go to the tank, I mean the ads will go to the decoy, and then the tank can just grab him, and that's it. He doesn't have to worry about the decoy stealing the taunt away, unless of course the tank's taunt expired. The other thing too is, if you're popping the decoy, you want to make sure that if there's a lot of ads near it, just you kind of step away from it too, especially if they're hitting pretty hard. Another thing is that although you don't have to pop distract, if you're fighting a boss or a group of NPCs, you could go in there, pop decoy, and then you could hit distract immediately. Now I slowed down for demonstration purposes, but you could go decoy and then distract. So you'd give yourself a shield to then roll away and get away from either a boss or a group of NPCs. But usually on NPCs that you are controllable, except for bosses, you could just go in there, pop the decoy, and then just get away. You could also pop personal dampening field, and that's pretty much it. But you always have the option to use either one. This is just to let you know, just in case your distract is on cooldown. But you could just pop the decoy, stun them, and get away. Now the stun from the decoy in either stance, whether DPS or controller, is very brief. It's not one of those long duration 15 seconds plus you're down type of stuns. It's just brief. You'll stun them, you can get away, and then the taunts will then activate on the NPCs in its AoE, and then they'll start attacking the decoy. Now the decoy has a 360-degree area of effect. Now that's a big circle, and I think the range is about 12 meters, so about where I'm standing. So any NPCs, this is the radius, any NPCs within this range, right, because I can't really show you here because it's too close, as long as the NPCs are there and the taunt triggers, they'll go to the decoy. It's not like you can go, it's not, let's say there's a boss or an NPC here, it's not like I can stay back here and then pop decoy, because it's totally out of range. It wouldn't work that way. Now I'm going to demonstrate on these ads down here. Now the decoy does not inflict any power interactions. I showed you the animation. It does not work with battle display, so you will not get power back if you use battle display with it. It does not work with the advanced mechanic because it doesn't inflict any PIs, and it's not offensive. So here I am, and here you see the brief stun, which then they come out of, and then you'll see in my combat out that the taunt is hitting them. Now it should hit one more time, and then that's it. Once the decoy disappears at 7 or 8 o'clock on the cooldown, they'll start attacking me. And again, those taunts, they're spaced out over 5 seconds. Now let me try to taunt him. This is what I was talking about. You don't have to get straight up in front, like let's say that was a boss. Now normally I would one-shot him if my lunge reached him, but because I clipped it, I was able to stop short of it and be somewhat at a spot where I can avoid a boss's AoE or whatever. You would obviously have to work on the timing and get used to a boss fight and kind of know what they're doing in order to pull that off, unless of course you just lunge in there, pop decoy, distract, and roll away, which again you can definitely do that too. here is the juggle. Now, the decoy self-destruct deals 3 knockdowns per target. So here's the decoy, and here is self-destruct.
You cannot stop me.
Now, my CR is obviously higher, so it more than likely was going to dispatch them. But yeah. So you saw the taunt, and you saw the 3 ticks of damage dealt to the NPC. Now again, my CR is higher than these NPCs, so the damage I'm doing to them is going to increase. Now, I would not recommend using self-destruct and decoy in an instance, because the damage is very minor. Also, there's a possibility that it still registers fake damage, and you don't want to do that, because then somebody would catch on and curse your ass out. So don't do that. Now here's the decoy. Hopefully this one doesn't one-shot or kill this one. Well, it did, so there it is. And the green numbers that you just saw, that's indicative of fake damage as well. Now, you'll also see on my damage in, it'll let you know when it damages the decoy, like right here. The soldiers attack, damage decoy, and then there's the amount. Now again, as long as damage absorption is active, damage 25% of it will be mitigated, and that will go to the decoy.